Hello and welcome to another Pittsburgh Steelers Depot live stream. I am Alex Kozora. Joining me as always is Dave Bryan here from SteelersDepot.com to answer your Steelers questions for the next hour from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Pittsburgh coming off, unfortunately, their first loss of the season Sunday to the Colts, 27-24, 3-1 on the year, but still in a good place overall. We'll talk about the loss, get your input, talk about injuries, including one, unfortunately, season-ending injury to right guard James Daniels. Dave, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
All right, I'm hanging in there. Got through both sides of the All-22 already, and take a little break to do this, and then maybe watch a little bit of these couple of games tonight, then dive back in later tonight before bed and see if I can learn anything else.
There you go, and hopefully we can be able to provide some answers and the questions you guys have here coming off this defeat. All right, go to the live chat here, and just a reminder, if you want a guarantee of your question being asked and answered, you can send Dave and I a super chat, and you'll go to the front of the line, and it'll be guaranteed to be addressed by us two. No obligation to do so. We do appreciate all the super chats. So if you guys could at the least like this video and also subscribe to the channel, would really appreciate that. So we'll dive right on in. We got one from EST1909ENT. He says, hello, Dave and Alex. I know Fields has made mistakes, but his highs are super high. Would you say his arm talent is higher than Kenny's? This might be the easiest question we'll answer tonight, Dave. Yes, safe to say it is.
Yeah, he's got a live arm. He really does, and it's a lot better than Kenny's for sure. He can really drill a football, drill it deep. I think one thing that's kind of stuck out is even some of the accuracy with the deeper on down the field throws that he's made. But yeah, there's never have had really a question about his arm strength overall and his arm talent. There has been some minor accuracy, I think, along the lines for him, not only with Steelers but throughout his career. But he's got an arm, and that's the least of my concerns when it comes to Justin Fields as we get deeper into this thing.
Yeah, physically, he's as talented of a quarterback Pittsburgh has had in a long, long time, just in terms of physical raw play and talent, but you've seen more consistency. You've seen him be more refined overall through the course of these 4 games. There were some ups and downs yesterday, granted, but overall, he's been steadier, been smarter with the football than his time in Chicago, and certainly the arm talent and the physical talent of Justin Fields has never been in question. It's why he was the 11th overall pick back in 2021. Mike Adesso, sticking with Fields, says, I'm a big fan of Fields. He's even better than I expected, but he just doesn't seem to have that end-of-game winning drive gene that Ben and Russ have, even Kenny had. Can this be learned? Hope so. I hadn't studied it to see what his numbers were. I thought he really rallied and fought hard in the second half of that one against the Colts, even though that was not all game-winning drive type stuff. And they were moving until that bad snap happened. So I don't know if that's my assessment. And in Pittsburgh specifically, obviously that was the first time to really judge that. And so it's a one-time sample size to evaluate Fields on in that regard.
I think this past week we said, we'll start getting maybe a better sense when he has to play from behind and try to engineer, any sort of a comeback. And really the offense as a whole, if they have to open it up or anything like that. Although obviously didn't engineer a game-winning drive, I thought he did some good things to get them in position to be, that one final possession away there. Now that Scott Cashmere wrote about this earlier in the week, and he does that Captain Comeback blog that I think he previews all the games every week and all, and he had one interesting nugget in there. Justin Fields is 0-20, or went into the game yesterday 0-21 when his team allows more than 20 points. And the Steelers at the time when I tweeted that were down 24-10. Now, obviously, that is 0-22 now at this point. Do you have his PFR page pulled up for game-winning drives?
It's going to be a little hard for me to do here with everything live. If you can pull it up here. Yeah, I know there's some splits out there that can tell you the numbers on that. I imagine they're not great considering just the losing overall that Chicago did. Not to put that all on Fields necessarily, but I just assume he's not exactly rattling off a bunch of game-winning drives in Chicago.
Looks like he has 4 game-winning drives, and they've got one listed for this year so far. So he's got 4 career game-winning drives, and obviously has started 42 games.
Yeah, so can it be learned? I mean, there probably is some innate quality that guys like Ben and Brady and Manning have, but if you were in a better situation in Pittsburgh than Chicago, it's probably just more conducive to having more success and just having more opportunities to have game-winning drives when you're on a competitive team like Pittsburgh that is rarely blown out.
Has just 2 fourth-quarter comebacks, too.
I've always wanted to know the difference. A game-winning drive, I guess, can come in the third quarter to take the lead, like a go-ahead drive. It feels more go-ahead drive than it feels game-winning drive to me, but maybe I'm getting into semantics about everything.
Yeah. So, look, that would have been I tell you that, what would we be talking about most of today had they pulled that off? Had obviously a field goal down at a time, but had they gone down and scored a touchdown and win the game, I mean, that really would have been the storyline with him. So, I think the main takeaway here is through 4 games is we're seeing some progression with him, and albeit it was a loss yesterday, I thought he played well overall. His adjusted net yard. Look, all these stats mean absolutely nothing if you don't come away with the W, obviously. But I think just from a statistical standpoint and the things that he did, we knew going into this game probably wasn't going to throw to the middle of the field much past 10 yards past the line of scrimmage because of the middle field close that Indy normally likes to run and all like that. But I thought he did a lot of good things in that game. And yeah, you can't just cherry pick and separate the bad snap at the end and obviously the fumble that he had in the middle of the game there. Those type of things, you got to have ball security. You got to have the wherewithal to know that snap's coming. I think he took ownership of that. But all that said, you can take ownership all day long. We got to stop talking about these center quarterback exchanges like we've done since the preseason. Really, didn't you see a few of those during camp or no?
I'm sorry, what was it?
During camp, center quarterback exchanges during camp. I know we talked. Obviously, had the issues during preseason.
Yeah, there were some laps being run in Latrobe because of it, but it is continued through the preseason and the regular season, and it is unacceptable. Mike, by the way, thinks that because of the clutch gene and Russ taking good care of the football historically, that Tomlin will go back to Wilson here. Mike doesn't say exactly when that'll happen. He says once healthy. The reporting is Wilson is healthy right now, so we'll see what Tomlin has to say tomorrow. Mike says he knows he's in the minority there, but Tomlin values what Russ brings. I get that. That was my inclination back in August of why I thought they would go with Russ, and there really was no big controversy, but I think Fields overall has played well enough to keep the job. I expect him to start going forward.
Yeah, I do as well, and it's going to be interesting to see the line of questions that Mike Tomlin gets for yet another Tomlin Tuesday, especially when a lot of the reporting right now from Schefter and Rappaport and I guess another one or two is saying that, Russ is now expected to be fully healthy, but will Mike Tomlin actually term him that tomorrow? We'll see. But I'm expecting, regardless of Russell Wilson's health, I'm expecting Fields to start against Dallas Sunday night.
Agreed. Tomlin will get the same questions. Will he provide the same answers? We'll find out tomorrow. And by the way, Dave, just getting some other unrelated Steelers news has happened during the podcast today, unfortunately, with Dikembe Mutombo. According to Ian Rappaport, and I'm sure other reports out here, Pete Rose has died at the age of 83.
Oh, man, you're breaking this.
I know. We should stop doing live streams and podcasts.
Yeah. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I didn't even see that. I'm just seeing it right now. Yeah, that's crazy.
Obviously, a very controversial life with suspension and the ban and the gambling, but as a player, they were few better than Pete Rose. So,
man, yeah, he played in when I was, a kid, and all the baseball cards, Charlie Hustle, and
right.
Who can forget that collision at home plate? Who was it? Ray Fosse, I think, in what was it, the All-Star game? And obviously, I hated the Reds as a Pirates fan growing up. You loved nothing more than to root against Pete Rose, but obviously one of the best to ever play the game.
All right, back into the questions here. John Pennington says, hello, Dave and Alex. I have to ask this question. Did all the position coaches and Tomlin fail this team in preparing them for the game? That's hard to say from our outsider perspective. I know there were commentary made by Deshaun Elliott about this team needing to practice harder and be a little more detailed in their work. Not that they took the Colts lightly, but they just weren't as buttoned up as he thinks they should have been throughout the week. So there could be some responsibility on coaches in that regard. I think Tomlin did not call a good game yesterday. I think he made a lot of critical mistakes in this one, not putting sole blame on him, but I think he struggled as the team struggled as well. But it's hard to say overall exactly what the positional coaches did and did not do to prepare this team for the game.
With all the talk of the faster starts, and we got to start faster, and they didn't do it on either side of the football. And boy, the Colts came out and they were the aggressor on both sides of the ball, certainly to start, and they jumped on the Steelers early. If there was any consolation, is that they shut them out in the third quarter, right? But in between there, as we talked this morning, man, you keep going back to those third down conversions that they had, and they got them in strings too. They only had 8 in a game. The first 4 came in a string in the first half, and the second 4 came at really a worst time of the game. And those weren't just 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 type situations either. Those were 3rd and longs. So it's just a collective fail as a team all the way around. And they finally once, and I think you did. I think you framed this properly on the podcast this morning that I still wonder how the game flow would have went because Richardson did get off to a good start. The Steelers were having problems handling, the read option component, and then obviously Jonathan Taylor tied to that. But I just wonder if Richardson would have been able to complete.
Sure.
Some of those several of those third down opportunities, especially some in a row, like Flacco did in this thing. But collectively, it was a fail by the coaching staff. I think on both sides of the ball, and even later in the game, man, if you just got one more stop and kept them out of the end zone, how big would that have been? So, there's plenty of fingers to be pointed all the way around here.
Yeah, it's fair to say, would Richardson had the same type of fluidity and rhythm that Flacco was able to establish? Probably not. But, the run game would have been harder to stop. So how that game goes, if Richardson finishes it out, it's obviously impossible to say. Even though Flacco is obviously a known guy to Pittsburgh, it's rare to see a team have a quarterback contrast in terms of starter backup being so different in terms of what Richardson offers versus what Flacco offers. Like two opposite quarterbacks from a mobility standpoint, both have big arms. Flacco still has a rocket arm, but because Flacco has that experience in the Shane Steichen offense, that's what made him attractive to the Colts. So there was an adjustment there to just going from a very different type of quarterback from Richardson to Joe Flacco. Let's see. We got some people here we got Daniel, we got Jason. Double HH is appearing to answer Mark's question about Arthur Smith and the Scottish flag that was on his sleeve. So good question, good answer. Thank you, Double HH, for hopping in.
I didn't even notice. I had to go back to the TV tape see if I can spot that flag on there. I haven't even noticed that.
Yeah, same here. But good call out, good eye, Mark, and thank you for the answer there, because I would not have been able to provide as good an answer as you did there. AJ says, a lot of people think Russ makes a return and starts this week. What's your sense? Seems like he hasn't really ramped up at all in recent weeks. Kind of addressed it, but Dave, just again, jump in here on Russ potentially starting this week.
Yeah, look, might he ramp it up more in practice? I think when the can of worms officially opens, look, there's nothing to say that Mike Tomlin can't come out during the Tuesday press conference and say, you know what, Russell Wilson's healthy. He's our starter. That's why we kept him at QB1 on the depth chart. We appreciate what Justin has done to this point, but we're going to go with Russell Wilson. There's nothing to prevent him from taking that standpoint, but he did say that they will address all of that once Russell Wilson is deemed fully healthy. Now, he can very easily hide behind that another week, regardless of what's being reported by guys like Schefter and all like that. Now, obviously, you get later on in the week. Last week I think was the last week or was the first week that we didn't see both quarterbacks hold the Thursday media session. Mike Tomlin's going to get peppered, like it or not, even though he says, I'm tired of answering this. I've told you. I don't know how many ways I got to tell you. He's going to get asked about this, especially on the heels of these couple reports from Schefter and all like that. I'll be surprised if Justin Fields is not the starting quarterback on Sunday night against the Cowboys. And assuming that's the case, I don't see how Mike Tomlin could do anything like put Russell Wilson as the backup and not the inactive emergency quarterback, because at that point he's officially saying that he's healthy enough to be right, the number two at that point and one snap away from going in the game. So I think personally, I think we'll see him try to buy another week here with the whole health component, and then maybe see how Justin plays one more game and then make the decision at that point. But I'm expecting Justin to be the quarterback against the Cowboys. So we'll see what Mike Tomlin has to say on Tuesday.
I do too. I was going to ask you, what do you expect to hear from Tomlin tomorrow? I think it's going to go something like this. He'll say, Russ is slated to have a full workout on Wednesday. We'll see how he does. We'll see how he responds to it, and we'll go from there. At this point, we're still preparing as if Justin is the starter. We'll evaluate Russell throughout the week. That's how I think we're going to get slightly different commentary tomorrow, but generally the same tone of he's working his way back. He'll work, we'll evaluate, and we'll go from there.
I think he'll probably be a little bit more perturbed, especially coming off of an L, Okay.
But in terms of like how he'll couch it, do you think he'll just say the same standard? He'll be limited and we're just going to wait and work? Or do you think he'll say anything different than what he's been saying the last month is what I'm getting at?
It'll just be worded different. It'll be in a different Ziploc bag this week, I think.
Do you think Russ practices in full this week at some point?
That's plausible, I think. They could do something on Thursday just to see how he gets through or something like that. Or, I think it's plausible that you see a full on the injury report this week.
Okay. I think we're in that direction. Finally, it's just a guess based on the reporting. And that's once you're at that point, then it becomes okay. You can't lean on the health as much, but I think Tomlin will at least have that rhetoric to a degree to start the week, and we'll see how the end of the week goes from there. That might be interesting. All right, appreciate you guys being here. Please like this video. We'll keep the questions coming and keep answering all your thoughts here. Gene says, gents, excited to see Darnell Washington getting more opportunities in the passing game. How can we get him even more involved? Dave, how do you think Pittsburgh can and should they get Darnell Washington more involved?
I certainly like the uptick in involvement that he had in this game yesterday, right, against the Colts. Even though it was what'd you write in there? Going back to what'd you have in the stats in the weird on that? Going back to time at Georgia.
Yeah, it was his longest reception and his most yards in a game since like November of his senior season at Georgia.
Okay. Look, he's not a guy that you're probably going to target 4 or 5 times a game, but he is a guy that you can use in a red zone in addition to the ways that you have used him so far. The leak outs, the shorter area type stuff. That was for a guy his size to do what he did after the catch on that one down the right sideline was pretty exciting to see when it goes that. But he's not a guy that's going to run away from people in the middle of the field or anything like that. Can you get him can you work out something where you get him 3 or 4 targets a game? I think that's possible, but I don't think, barring something happening to a guy like Pat Freiermuth, he's not going to be a guy that's going to get 5 or 6 targets a game, just not. But I think a red zone is definitely an area where you could, fit in a target for him.
He has been running more routes, at least what I've been able to see visually. I don't have the data top of my head here to back it up, but he ran a lot of routes against the Chargers, and he caught a couple passes here. Obviously, they were, rollouts and leak outs, like you said, so nothing crazy, but that's probably what you continue to do with him, is just some of the boot game, some of the flat type routes he's been running is probably where he'll continue to work, and maybe some more red zone type stuff, but that's going to be obviously more game dependent.
We see teams do this against the Steelers over the years, where you have the multiple tight ends and one acts like he's blocking, releases and get lost in the back of the end zone, right?
Yeah, wide leak.
Yeah, I'd like to see some wide leaks from the Steelers maybe a couple times in the next several weeks.
Hopple Mop says, I would really wonder if you think Najee is part of the problem in the running game. You've watched the tape more than I've been able to in this Colts game on Najee, especially when you see Patterson running well. What's your evaluation?
Well, I tell you what, on a couple of those Patterson runs that he had, and look, he was the spark in that game. It's a shame that they lost him to the injury when they did, because it seemed like they had some fluidity there. They were starting to run downhill. They weren't just, they were sizable runs on top of it there, and it seemed like he almost even broke one of those. But a couple of those were blocked up a lot better, especially ones on the right side there. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for Najee to run in that, and he obviously did not hit the hole as fast as Patterson did. But to me, it didn't seem like there was a lot of running room for him, period, overall. And he is not a guy who said this coming out of college with him. He was not an explosive runner overall. Now, he did kind of tamper that narrative down last season with some of those runs, but we're not seeing a lot of. Are you seeing a lot of pin and pulls or stuff like that? I mean, most of the times when he has gotten to the edge, he's produced some nice runs, and then obviously late in that game against the Chargers had a nice seam and took advantage of that. Went looking for contact after it, but it seems like when Najee. It seems like it's feast or famine with Najee, right? It's -1, it's 2, it's 3 yards, 2 yards, 1 yard, and then 15.
Yeah, I mean, the holes really haven't been there throughout the year consistently behind this offensive line that's dealing with injuries and youth and teams stacking the box to stop the run, because they know that's Pittsburgh's MO, their personality, how they win, grind out possession, shorten the game, all that kind of stuff, wear teams down, win the war of attrition. I thought he's shown some glimpses of being able to change directions and a bit more explosiveness and change the direction, not in this game, clearly, but earlier this year. I think the Falcons game, he had a really good 20-yard run where he cut it back and hit the hole and got a really good gain out of it. So I got to check the tape. The run game felt pretty static, pretty bland to me in this one in terms of conceptually, how it worked. I don't know if the injuries is how much that's impacting things, but he's not a guy that's going to produce the big play. That's been his MO. And when teams are able to really stack the box and win the point of attack, there just really isn't a lot of running room there for him. All right, next question will come from Carl Ward, who says, any concern with Minkah? The splash play hasn't happened in a long time. He always seems a step behind. Still a great tackler, but not the Minkah he was 2-3 years ago.
I think, that first throw of the game, I thought by the TV tape initially, that looked more like it was going to be an easier potential interception for Joey Porter than what the end zone shot showed on that. It's a game of inches. If Anthony Richardson throws that first ball an inch lower, Joey Porter gets that hand on it up in the air and either deflects it. Who knows where the ball goes at that point? Or if Richardson is 1 inch, 2 inches higher with that throw, that's going right into Minkah's arms. I just look. opposing teams know where he is on the field. They've tried to make sure to try to rob him down. There was that one yesterday. That might have even been a third down play over to the right side later in the game. They're definitely trying to robber him, rat him to get him in position to make some of those plays. He just hasn't yet, and I don't think it's like a lot of them that have been close to him either. And for him to make plays on top of it there. So teams are just they know where he is on the field and trying to avoid him. And I think he's probably, especially in this game yesterday, probably an inch away from maybe having his first interception in there. If you go back and look at the all 22 on that first throw even.
Yeah, like you said, teams have made an effort to throw away from him. The middle of the field really not used vertically, even in this game, not as much as probably the Colts have done otherwise. And listen, he forced the fumble on Richardson. I mean, that ball's on the ground. It's got to be recovered. It's not an interception, but it's an impact play. And if they recover that one, who knows what happens from there? Colts recover. They end up getting 7 out of it. So that was a forced fumble on a big dude on Richardson. So, I mean, that's an impact play that Pittsburgh just simply was unable to capitalize on. Next question comes from AJC. Has McCormick played a lot of snaps at right guard in college, and wasn't it the plan for him to replace Daniels when he leaves next year? Debuted the numbers this morning on the podcast. He was a left guard at South Dakota State.
Over 3, I feel like we should do that. What's a cartoon that you watch?
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, over 3,000. Over 3,300, in fact, I think, snaps that McCormick had at left guard, had 19 at right guard, and even fewer than that. What do you have, like 5 at center or 7 at center or something like that at South Dakota State? Long story short, he's primarily a left guard in college there. Now, who knows? I put out there on Twitter and my explanation why, and I explained it more on the podcast this morning here. Who knows when it comes to common sense on this, and who knows how actual versatile he can be. Some of these guys flip sides and you never even know it. I do wonder if Isaac Seumalo comes back. At least I think this is something to watch. The common sense side of me would tell me to leave Mason McCormick at left guard and flip Isaac Seumalo over to right guard because he's got experience at right guard. But Isaac Seumalo throughout his NFL career has been a better left guard than he has been a better right guard, and Mason McCormick's still a young NFL guy. So if you were going to make the switch, and if you were to go ahead and plan, say moving past James Daniels this year, that you wanted Mason McCormick to be your right guard and Seumalo to stay on the left side, then obviously now would probably be the time to do it. So all I will say is that Mason McCormick was a left guard in college, and it's worth the talking point, or at least a watching point, to see what happens this week with unfortunately James' sideline.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. A lot of possibilities here. Spencer Anderson spoke with the media and said he's more comfortable at right guard. He had played there primarily in training camp, got a lot of work there at Maryland, I believe. And so we'll see if they go with Anderson at right guard, Seumalo at left guard. That's not saying that's likely or will happen, but it is one possibility. I think McCormick to right guard, maybe that was the plan for next year. We don't know exactly. Obviously, it was never explicitly said that was the plan. It just made sense with Daniels seemingly playing his last year out in Pittsburgh and them having a hole there next year. But we'll see how Daniels' Achilles impacts his free agent market. Obviously it will. And yes, he is going to be out the year there, Mark. Got a $2 super chat from Paul Brown. Don't see any text on it, but thank you, Paul. We do appreciate that. He did say above to rip Pete Rose, and so I know that news is making the rounds. You guys were saying that Deshaun Elliott got credit for the forced fumble. I think you're actually right about that. I'd have to go back and double check. But if you look at the play, like, that's when Richardson got hurt, and the way that Minka came in and hit him, that injured him, I think really probably had a greater influence on that ball being knocked out than Elliott, who was coming in over the top. So both made a nice play. Elliott had a good game overall. But, I think Minka coming in and making that hit was the real catalyst for the forced fumble, even if he didn't technically get credit for it.
Right.
All right, if you guys could like the stream, get as many people loved it, triple digits here in this live stream today. Let's see what else we have here in terms of the questions. Let me scroll back on up. I was down there by the super chat for Paul. He says, Matthew Kinney does, I don't want to put my head over my skis at the moment, but what did y'all think about Patrick Queen this game? Thought there were a lot of tackles for both him and Dante Jackson that they really could have had. Yeah, I mean, I did think it was a good game overall. Communication was worse in this one as a defense. Getting off of blocks was tough for him. Missing a tackle or two. Don't think it was a particularly good game for Patrick Queen.
Yeah, I didn't either. Overall, it definitely could have been better. Look, that was one of my 5 keys. Be queen for a day. And he certainly was not king or queen for the day. You kind of wondered with, especially had something not happened to Anthony Richardson. I mean, regardless, because of the Colts, liking to use a lot of 11 personnel and all like that. Probably going to have one linebacker on the field quite a bit, and kind of game where you hope that your off-the-ball linebacker can make a lot of impactful plays, either within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage or beyond the line of scrimmage. And you throw in the missed tackles on top of that, and him being a quarterback and them talking about miscommunication, it wasn't a great game for him.
Got a $20 super chat from our friend Double HH. Thank you again. He says, odds on Mason Rudolph getting his first start before Mr. Russell Wilson getting his. It's an interesting question. It really might be dependent on injury. I know Levis has struggled. Right. So we'll see how Levis plays tonight. Might determine the answer here. I think one of the games is kicking off right about now. The other one in a little bit. I'll say Rudolph gets a start before Wilson.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you would think it would come by injury, right?
But Levis is struggling so much. Maybe he gets benched. First year coach down there, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know which way I'd lean on that. Yeah, I'll go with Rudolph.
Because Levis has had a turnover problem. He's made some meme-worthy plays. I think all 3 games he's had this year. So that coupled with the injury risk, I'll lean Rudolph, but obviously, we're guessing here. All right, next question will come from, if I can scroll back up. Oh, let's see. Mike says that quick slants and dink and dunk seems to be Pittsburgh's kryptonite. You saw Herbert having success against in the Chargers game, and Flacco having success on Sunday. How does that get fixed? Sutton will help. I mean, Sutton will probably end up only playing, well, I don't know exactly what Sutton's role will be. It might only be in some dime packages. We'll just have to wait and see on that. I mean, Pittsburgh's a zone-heavy team. When you're playing a lot of zone and keeping the ball in front of you, teams are going to throw it underneath. So you can play more man and the consequences that come along with that. But, when you're a zone personality, that's going to be more likely to happen.
And Flacco certainly did pick it apart, too.
Yeah, he did. Now, Pittsburgh has to communicate better. You pointed out on the Ogletree touchdown, it looks like Beanie Bishop missed a call. He thought they were in man, they were in zone, left Ogletree open on that play. So some of those things have to get cleaned up. I think some of the landmarks, some of the zones were a little too bunched in this game. I look at the Josh Downs touchdown. Felt like there was a little too much bunched, even though it was condensed work down there near the goal line. So there are things you can do, things you can work on. Forcing teams into 3rd and long, playing good run defense. That's going to help as well. So teams can't dink and dunk, and they have to go 5 and 7 step drops and wait for the route to open up. So those things will help. But when you're zone, teams will look for the holes.
All right.
All right, about half hour left. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible. Matt Boatwright says, best Steelers podcast news on the planet. Look forward to the super long shows. And if Justin Fields pans out, I think Alex should name his firstborn Justin instead of Trevor, I guess. So thank you, Matt. We appreciate that.
You got to get busy having a couple kids, huh?
Yeah, you guys don't let me forget about that one. So thank you, Matt. I appreciate the kind words, and thank you for listening.
Matt.
Our friend Russ Openstein says, what's up, Alex and Dave in chat? Minka, the call was BS, and on the last drive, Pickens was held, never called, would have been in field goal range. Ref's poor game. TJ held several times too. Would you agree? Yeah, did not like the call on Minka. That was shoulder to shoulder. That was as clean can get. On Pickens on the end there, I don't know. It's debatable. I think I'm okay with a no call though. And yeah, it was Watt held once or twice. Yeah, but nothing really new there.
And what about the OPI that wasn't called down the field?
Right on that Dante Jackson. I mean, I really wasn't expecting a flag there. I know, Pickens was called for OPI earlier, but
He
it
has
takes
the
a
right
lot.
to try to get to that ball too, and he had positioning on that. If he's not pushed down, he's at least got a fighting chance to get that.
Sure, no, I don't disagree. I just know the bar is generally pretty high for OPI, and I almost never expect OPI, so that's just kind of my default stance. Not saying that there certainly was a case to be made there. I just never expected as a general rule of thumb. I'm less disappointed that way. All right, next question will come from, I just lost my place here. Matt says, also, Dave, thank you for the continued hard work on the podcast. I know you've in the past talked about stepping back. However, I think of you both as Batman and Robin. Can't imagine the podcast without you. So I guess I got to be Robin in this scenario, right? I guess you're Batman.
I'm Batman.
It's pretty good.
I tried. Look, I enjoy. I still look forward to doing every show with Alex. I have kind of lessened my workload overall, even though I'm still in front of the computer, probably about the same amount of time. I'm just doing kind of different duties now and trying to watch a little more football, actually, more tape and. But have great help, obviously, and a guy like Alex, and got a great staff, that we put together and all. So I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I still very much enjoy what I do. So thank you for the kind words.
From Nate, he says, any chance Tomlin realizes this team needs to jump on the Cowboys, open up the offense, and let Fields be aggressive to build a lead? Yeah, I haven't thought about the Cowboys game in terms of approach too much. Obviously, that defense is hurting. No Lawrence. Unlikely to have Parsons in this one. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think Pittsburgh has shown a willingness to be aggressive against the Chargers. They came out, first play. Yeah, it just wasn't there. The play action has really been underwhelming. They've used it a lot, but it's not been effective. We need to probably examine that more, pull some of the numbers once we get to charting from this Colts loss. But I think the team has shown some aggression.
And look, the shots that they normally take down the field, barring the game against the Chargers, which was more middle of the field open, they're probably going to have to pick their spots. Would like to see some more of these kind of overs and stuff like that. See them try to push the football down the field a little bit more, obviously, than what they have. And I did like the fact that they had Justin using his legs, either by design or obviously via the scrambles. I called for that last week to start using that aspect of it. He made some plays on the move. That one was really close for him crossing the line of scrimmage. But what does that mean? Open it up more shots down the field. I guess is what he's calling for. But I mean, if you got teams playing, middle of the field close type situations. Those shots, unless they're just 50-50 balls, are probably going to be limited unless you start some of these hole shots or just 50-50 balls or back shoulders or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see exactly. Defense can dictate a lot of things in this too high world. That's keeping offenses playing it shorter and focusing on the run. I know Pittsburgh, they need to get this run game going, and Dallas has generally not been great against the run. Now, their big nose tackle, Mazi Smith, played his best game of the year against the Giants, but overall, Dallas has been a bottom third team, maybe bottom five team against the run. And so Pittsburgh's got to be able to get it right and be physical up front and hopefully get Sayamalu back and go from there. So we'll see the game plan. We'll talk about it more on Friday, I'm sure, on the podcast.
I haven't even looked at Cowboys stuff yet. What were they going into the weekend? They were 37% cover 3, 19% cover 4. And the next one would have been cover 1 at 17%. Now that hasn't been updated since their game this week.
It doesn't count the Giants game on Thursday?
I don't believe so. No, this was from what we had after week 3.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You're playing cover 3, you're playing cover 1, you're playing quarters, you want your safeties close to the line, you're playing 8 in the box, you're trying to stop the run for a team that struggled to do so. That all kind of adds up, but it will open up some of those vertical outside shots like the Broncos game and somewhat like the Colts game as well. Anthony says, who is going to tell Najee to unhook the trailer, which is now my favorite phrase from Jordan Mailata on that Dallas Goedert run. Yeah, that's maybe the key that Najee needs there.
He's just not that, we've said it several times. He's just not that guy, even though he did, gain quite a few yards. Who was it? Chris Hoke said he thought Patterson would have broke that for a touchdown on that one. Was that his assessment?
Yeah, on the screen. I mean, it's what was a 30-something, 32-yard gain. It's hard to be too critical of that. He also just seemed gassed at the end of that play, so I think he just ran out of steam and literally, could not unhook the trailer on that one. But yeah,
the piano got heavy. Is
real heavy on his back. Yeah. But yeah, as you said, he's never been that guy. At Alabama wasn't that guy. You didn't draft him to be the home run hitter. He's not Derrick Henry that kind of has this second gear in the open field that is just not, it's like asking, I don't know, a plow to be a Ferrari. It's just not his style. Mike Adesso, I've been critical of Herbig more than most since the day he was drafted, and he's continued to prove me wrong. But those that clamored for him over Alex sure are quiet today. Colts ran at him all day. I haven't gotten a deep dive into his game. Obviously, wasn't spectacular. What are your thoughts on Herbig against the Colts in his first career start?
Look, neither of their pass rushers, were able to get consistent pressure. I thought he had at least one nice power rush that I saw in that game, but most of the times his pass rush going around the arc was, there was one other time I think where maybe it looked like he was going to have a shot if Flacco reared back to strip something there. Against the run, I didn't get look, you had to defend. You come out initially and had to defend against Richardson, and you pointed that out. That slows those edge guys down overall there. Mm-hmm. I didn't come away my first trip through the all 22 defensive tape of thinking, oh man, he just got rolled up on in the running game. I think just at the front in the general, especially between the tackles, more so seemed to get gash. But I did not focus on him specifically first time through general run of Herbig against the run. I'll do that these next couple of trips through. But I didn't come away just thinking, oh Lord, he was just absolutely awful. But I mean, it is on my checklist because obviously this is the first long action that he's got, and we know what he is as a pass rusher, and we still have an answer. To get a full, it's nice to have a full game of tape on him to look at him against defending the run.
Yeah, it is to see him play more than his usual 10, 15 or so snaps, to play a little tired. And yeah, it just seemed to be okay to me. The pressure across the board wasn't good. The run defense across the board was just adequate, I would say. I don't know if
I didn't even look I haven't even had a chance to go stop by to see, not that it matters, what PFF had his run defense grade at. Did you look at it?
I haven't even had a chance to take a look at grades yet from them. I mean, he missed some time. Herbig did with the ankle. He came back, kind of missed with the second quarter. Came back around halftime, I think. I'm guessing he got probably average marks overall in this one.
Yeah, a little below average. They have him at 55.2 grade against run defense in that. Now, they do have him down for a missed tackle in the game. But overall, as a run defender, 13th overall out of 19 players that were ranked. Now, you did have a few guys like Edmonds who only played 8 snaps at ranked. Edmonds looked like he never left in that game. And Loudermilk played 5, ranked slightly above Herbig as far as grading goes. But we'll talk about that on the Wednesday podcast, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it more in depth. Juju26 with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Juju. He says, I like Fields' upside, but why does he literally never throw with anticipation? Yeah, I mean, he's not really an anticipatory type of thrower. I guess it's a little more see it open. But I mean, I think overall he's made good decisions. He's been accurate. I think he has made strides as a passer, playing from the pocket more often. And again, I'm talking throughout the first month, not just this game in a vacuum, even though I think there were shades of that in this game. So, yeah, I get that, and that'd be kind of the next step to take. The real elite guys can throw at that level of anticipation, but I think he's been accurate and seen what's there accurately, and so I'm happy with where those things are at.
And I view it as they're wanting him to play within confines of what they want the offense around him to look like right now too. They Mike Tomlin likes playing a rock throwing game. He doesn't want to put him in situations where he's tight window throwing that much, I would reckon.
Agreed. Just to make quickly one broader point about what you said, this team wanting to be the rock fight kind of a team and game. You can't be a slow starting team and also be the tough team. Like, toughness has to be evident from the word go, and we're not seeing that as much as we've needed to, I think, recently, especially early in games, especially with this offense. So just one broader point I want to make. And I thought the Colts at times were the more physical defense too. They came out hitting. Pats were popping early. The Chargers the same way. Now they wore down, and Pittsburgh was able to get the run game going late. Not the case being behind, given the game circumstances on Sunday. But I think if you want to be the tough team, you can't warm up. You can't become the tough team in the second half. You got to be tough team from the word go. Bruce says, hi, Dave and Alex. If they move Isaac to right guard when he comes back, do you think he takes the lead on the silent count handling, or do you think they keep it at left guard? Interesting question. I assume there's no reason Sam Malu can't do it from the right guard spot.
Right.
And it would make sense to have him be the veteran in there that kind of maybe has a better feel for it all. So it shouldn't make a huge difference, a silent count, tapping, getting the signal. If you trust a guy to start and block a 3-tech, you probably trust him to figure out the silent count situation. Now they're going to be at home this weekend, so you won't be on a silent count against Dallas. But yeah, it's probably safe to assume that Sam Malu will handle those responsibilities.
All right, it'll be interesting to see where he lines up too. So there's some mini storylines to kind of watch within that, and I think the general consensus is we should expect Sayamalo back at the very least. And what great they need him back.
Yeah.
Great timing for it. Unfortunate circumstance with James going down, obviously, but yeah, that'll be something that we watch for. Not only what side, but who's handling whatever little tapping might need to get done in this next game.
I keep clicking on this article and keep forgetting to mention it, and I don't think anyone has asked us today. We've occasionally gotten the question about would Pittsburgh consider trading back for Deontay Johnson, and regardless of if you hate the idea, if you love the idea, it can't happen, essentially. According to Ian Rappaport, he was referencing the Hassan Reddick situation with the Jets, where the Eagles trade Reddick to New York, and they can't get a deal done, and Reddick hasn't played, and there was a question of could he go back to the Eagles, and NFL rules don't allow players to be traded back for 2 seasons, and so just applying that to Deontay's situation, Pittsburgh could not trade for him back, which I did not know was a rule, and it's good to know at least for this situation and any potential situations later on.
You can't think that you know it all because you always learn something new, and that was something new. If I read that before somewhere, I forgot it.
Yeah,
so it was new to me. So
yeah, usually does not apply. Now there are other exceptions about how players come back. I won't get into all the weeds on that kind of stuff, but just to make a note on that. Pittsburgh Toddy, he's not asking it, he's declaring it. He says, in the NFL, there are no trap games. This is in college. Do you even think this was a conceivable trap game for Pittsburgh against Indy, Dave?
You know how I feel about that. I'm with him. I don't buy, and I haven't for some time, the notion of a trap game in the NFL. These guys are professionals. There's a lot of talent in there. Injuries can in-game, pre-game, can shift the tide and all this. I buy it more obviously in the college aspect of it, but I have for a long time not bought the notion of trap games in the NFL. If you want to look at it from a betting standpoint, as far as point spreads and all like that, we can have a whole nother discussion about that. But this is the NFL, man, and any given Sunday does and will always apply.
Yeah, I can maybe buy the argument of trap games from the player standpoint. There still might be a level of comfort and even some kind of subconscious thought if you're playing really well and playing a poor team that, you're just going to be able to win this. I mean, sometimes it might also just be you're getting their team's best. If you're a great team playing against some bad team, that bad team knows they got to give it all they have to win this one. But regardless, this is not a trap game. We're in week 4. This is not the 11-0 Steelers against, the 0-11 whoever. This is competitive teams. Pittsburgh lost to the Colts last year in Indy. To me, this is not the makings of a trap game.
Look, I had this as a 1-point Steeler win. I thought it might be a close game by however it turned out.
Right. So yeah, I don't think that was the issue in this one to the here and now. Let's see what else we have. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible. Eric says, if the Steelers get to 6 wins before the bye, how do you think they will do in the gauntlet? It's hard to say. Sometimes those things aren't always related. And,
Pittsburgh, they better stop losing guys to injury.
It's also true, because the gauntlet's not going to help in that regard.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, this is such a week-to-week league, man.
Yeah.
I mean, so much can happen. They do need to rebound from this obvious loss and try to stack a couple together, and it's kind of a unique schedule in and of itself there, because you go Sunday night at home, you go on the road for a late Sunday afternoon game in Vegas, and then you come back another Sunday night game, and then a Monday night game. So you got, obviously the scheduling that goes along with that, and obviously prime time stuff that goes along with it. The next game is I know it sounds cliche, but that should be the next thing that they focus on, is getting past the Cowboys. And, obviously we'll see what happens when you start running. Hopefully they're in a good position because it's going to be a tough gauntlet through all those AFC North teams. And then the Chiefs and the Eagles and all like that. So I don't even want to look that far ahead right now.
Yeah, it's impossible to predict what Pittsburgh will look like, even under the assumption of 6 games, 1 before the Week 9 bye. Let's say they're 6-2, but they always play the North tough. They've always had success there. They've been at or above 500 in division every year since 2002. I imagine that'll generally stay the same, so they should be competitive, but predicting really anything specific and meaningful is impossible right now. Let's see what else we have here. Javon Threat, you think they'll bring back the kid from UGA back? It might be a reference, because I know John asked as well about Dejon Edwards, the running back who was in training camp with the team, undrafted free agent. Yeah, they could, depending on Warren's situation. It'd be practice squad, but yeah, it's possible.
Well, they didn't make a move this week, right? Knowing that he was going to be kind of limited. Now you got a different. We'll have to see with Patterson. Yeah. What happens with him? It's plausible. You could see it.
Pittsburgh, Todd, if you think about it, Najee doesn't look much different than Franco. Am I completely wrong about this? I'm not entirely sure the angle of that question, but I think they're pretty different guys. Franco was the guy that wouldn't seek out extra contact. He'd go to bounds to try to preserve his body. Najee just runs face first in the people. So I think their styles are pretty different.
Yeah, I don't think Najee avoids contact. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the one thing you can certainly say about him. Let's see what else we have here. HHH, I will join others by hoping that we can start out offenses fast. Have you all seen lately how the Ravens sprint out of the gate? Literally, yeah. Listen, I'd love give me a 14-point lead on somebody. That'd be great. Just different ways you can do that. And as long as they're controlling the ball early, run the ball early, that's what they really have to get back to doing. They have not run the ball. What do they run for in the first half of the last 2 games? I mean, it's if you discount maybe some of the quarterback design stuff or scramble stuff, at the very least, it has not been efficient.
No, not at all. Especially if you take away the quarterback runs too.
Yeah, I mean, Patterson, I guess, had a couple good runs in the first half of that game against the Colts, but still, I bet the numbers overall are, 3.5 yards per carry at best in the first half, probably lower than that.
Boy, and then you see that first play of the Ravens from the end zone view and how that thing parted like the Red Sea. And how old's Derrick Henry now? Boy,
that guy's 30.
Man, he still runs like a thoroughbred, man. That guy is fun to watch out in the open field. He still run away from people.
It's crazy they didn't run the ball in that final play to give him 200. They ran that boot to
you know what? I understand the whole 200-yard thing and all like that, but, oh, man, I don't know if I would have had him in there.
No, I agree. That was because they took Lamar out. But then if you're going to have Henry in, then get him to 200. That's the whole point of leaving him in, I thought. And they ran like the first 2 plays and then booted to third. Yeah, which just run ahead. That was weird, but we're not Ravens Depot, so not our problem. Let's see what else. We got time for just a couple more questions. We'll try to get through as many as possible. Rapid fire. Mike says, similar to the discussion we had when Bud Dupree got hurt in a contract year, does Daniel's injury maybe open the door for a return? Obviously, he won't get the money we all expected. It's probably more likely because I think he was as good as gone had he been healthy and he was having a really good season. Now Dupree still left and got a big deal. Achilles injury, pretty serious here for Daniels. Happened earlier to Daniels in the season than it did Dupree. So we'll see. It's really up in the air right now about his future.
Yeah, just got to get past it. These Achilles are nasty,
Yeah.
So that's with the. I guess the positive about this is it's happening in September as opposed to a month from now. So but we'll have to see how the rehab goes and what that does to his market. I mean, obviously his market price is probably going to be cut by this now, but how much, we'll just have to wait and see.
Mr. Tummy says, gents, with the first 4 games, what are your updated win-loss record forecasts? I haven't thought about it. I don't make them in season. I said 10-7 to begin the year. I'll stick at 10-7 as my prediction.
I think I was 9-8, and I think they're a little bit better team than what I thought they might be. Obviously, was expecting a win against the Colts. Okay, people want me to shift. I'll shift it by a game. I'll go 10-7.
Kevin Herzog, do you think Fields has the potential to have a better career than Big Ben? I'm thinking no, but I mean, Fields has been impressive, but Ben's the first bout Hall of Famer, so yeah. I'm not thinking that's going to be Fields' career arc. Happy to be wrong about that, but
yeah, I would gladly be happy to be wrong as well too. He's got a lot to prove still.
Yeah. What else do we have here? Joey Jr., David, and Alex, in my opinion, this offense is no different than Matt Canada's offense. The only thing that's different is a few more tight ends involved. We're 4 games in. I think the offense has had more success. It's been more competent, more organized. They did score 24 yesterday, ultimately. I think it's above Canada.
Yeah, it looks fine. No, obviously you want more points and all like that, but I don't think you can compare it to what Canada was rolling out there.
Mark Cunningham, yo, Alex, Calvin Austin III is getting close. Do you think he's going to take a punt to the house this year? I do. It's popcorn trying to predict those things. Real good run back yesterday, 30 yards. Unfortunately, Pittsburgh couldn't capitalize, but maybe. Last punt return for touchdown, that's Deontay in 2019, his rookie year. Last punt return for a touchdown by a Steeler.
Was that the one against the Cardinals? Was that it?
It was the Cardinals. There has not been one since, correct? I think that was the last punt return touchdown.
You might be right.
And the last kick return touchdown was Juju in 2017.
Against the Browns.
Finale, and Pittsburgh has had one whole kick return the entire season. Patterson having 0, as teams have just been booting the ball out of the end zone. That's going to change, though, once the weather gets bad. So hopefully kick returns will be a thing here in a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else do we have? Have the Steelers figured out that Washington can play football outside of blocking someone? Yeah, like I said, he's gotten more involved in the pass game, but point taken on that. We'll see if he gets utilized going forward. And just by the way here, Mason Rudolph is coming into the game against Miami.
Ooh.
Will Levis is in the medical tent getting examined for apparent injury to his throwing shoulder, and Mason Rudolph is coming in against the Dolphins, according to Tom Pelissero. So that question from Double HH earlier, may have spoken that into existence on Rudolph. So we'll see how Mason does in his Titans debut. So just go get off the live stream here in just a moment and check it out. Bryan, did Fautanu go on IR? What did the doc say about him? Doctors have not mentioned anything. They don't speak, and Tomlin hasn't really gotten into the details of the knee injury, but reports are it's a dislocated kneecap. Seems similar to David DeCastro, his rookie year. Fautanu did go on IR last Saturday. Yes, Bryan. Russ, do you guys agree with me that a loss like this can sometimes be a great learning lesson? Sure, I think the NFL can humble you and refocus you some. So I don't think Pittsburgh was getting too high on themselves. But yeah, I think losses can bring clarity, sometimes more than wins.
Yeah, let's not have a bunch of them, though, to have to learn from.
That is also true. Do you think we go poach someone's practice squad for O-line guys? They worked out some guys today. They brought a couple in after cut downs. We'll see, but probably not at that point right now. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and one of them was a guy that played with Mason McCormick in college there, too, that they brought in today.
Yeah, Garrett Greenfield.
Greenfield.
Yeah, they brought in Nestor and Leglue. Could Leglue get put on the 53 with Daniels going on, presumably on IR? That seems possible.
Mm-hmm.
Last question we'll get to is from Menzo. 2 questions. What's your take on Pat Meyer philosophy, and do you think the Steelers were in the right not paying Najee Harris? Probably unpopular right now. I still would have picked up the option on Harris. I was never really in favor of paying him a second contract. I'll stand by that for now. Take on Pat Meyer's philosophy. It's a long answer there, probably needed. I don't know. There are some things I like, some things I don't like about the Meyer philosophy, but that's probably true of any coach. Some things you like, some things you dislike.
Yeah, and I think you're just going to have to live with it at least through the rest of this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's definitely going to be the guy, and we'll go from there. So we'll wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I appreciate all the questions, all the super chats. I know coming off a loss, it's a little more uneventful, a little less maybe fun, so to speak, but you guys were still here sticking it out with you and I, Dave, and so we appreciate that. There'll be an archive version of this on the site in just a little bit, so thank you guys so much for being here. Dave, as always, thank you for being here as well.
Yeah, thanks for moderating and doing what you do. Thank you for everybody that showed up this week. Hopefully 2 weeks from now, a little bit better, positive coming off of a W there, and just appreciate everybody. Listening to the podcast, reading the site, any social media interactions and all, and peace and love, everybody.
All right, guys, like I said, there'll be an archive version of this on Steelers Depot in just a little bit. If you guys could just subscribe to the channel, check out the site, of course, check out the Steelers Depot YouTube channel as well. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.